Okay, let's welcome our audience. Welcome to the Ready, Set, Gemini podcast. I am your host, Dan Mora, and directly across from me, my co-host.
Hey, everybody. It's energetic Frank Smithson.
Frank, how are you today?
I'm feeling fantastic. Had a really good weekend.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
How about you?
Yeah, good weekend. It was full.
Yep.
Full. I need a rest from my weekend.
All right.
That's okay.
That's what the weekdays are for.
Right. Maybe a nap, maybe an 8 p.m. nap is my new habit. I didn't take naps till I was 40, at least after 40. I never took naps.
Interesting. Are you a napper now?
I'm kind of a napper.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
that your wisdom for the day, is to take naps?
It's been more a necessity than any sort of wisdom. Yeah.
My napping is changed. I've always liked taking naps, but now like 20 minutes is like a really good refresh, and you wake up and you still have energy as opposed to being groggy.
I've been doing 45, and I don't think that's right. I have to like slap myself to wake up. It's hard to wake up.
If you sleep
after.
too long, you get all like, "Wah."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do some jumping jacks.
Yeah, jumping jacks, push-ups.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first off today, we have a topic on contractors requiring to provide workers' compensation insurance starting January 1st. A few types of contractors: concrete, HVAC, asbestos, and tree service. All are required as of now. To have workers' compensation insurance, regardless if they have employees or not.
Yes, they can file for exemption, but they have to state that they do not have any employees. So it seems like they're setting up the stage where if someone doesn't have workers' compensation, put someone to work, injury happens, there's going to be some liability for that, maybe even criminal. It'd be interesting to see how they move forward with that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this? I know you had a few thoughts on this guy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I there's two things. Like for smaller companies, it's definitely burdensome for the employers because now they have additional outgoing expenses and they're probably having difficulty trying to compete. But at the same time, it makes a lot of sense. Everybody should have work comp insurance. You need to protect the employees that are out there that are working underneath you. So I think overall it's good. It's probably going to take some normalizing, and it may make it a little bit more difficult just to get into the industry.
Yeah.
The consumers, will they feel it? The way I think of it now, if you go out and you're looking for a contractor, and you're looking for a really good price, you're probably not going to go with the bigger companies that have, a ton of employers. I just recently did flooring, for example, and I called multiple companies, and one lady came out, went through the house, super professional, gave me a great quote, had like guarantees on the work, and you could tell she was really put together. I just needed to finish some staircase and do one little repair, and she wanted to charge me $5,000. And then I contacted some handymen, and they're charging me $50 an hour. And the total cost was I think it was like $900 or something like that. So there's a big difference. Granted, this handyman didn't have employees, but let's say he wanted to bring 2 people in to get the job done. Now that costs would have to go up for him.
Right.
So does a consumer end up being the one that gets hit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's a lot of dispute on whether or not employee is an employee of a company when they do the contractor, shuffle between, is this your employee or is this, the other company's employee? With coverage, at least there's some mitigated risk during that time while it kind of settles. And maybe that's part of it too, is that in those situations where there's a question about who's liable, it just gets taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a good thing, I think.
The cost to businesses is significant. If you have an employee, you're required to have workers' compensation insurance. But what this is focusing on is contractors. Again, I think that part of this is because there's been a question or there's been concerns about who you had. AB5, which is the
Uber, right?
Yeah, which was everybody's an employee. And then you have these carve-outs now with companies, not companies, but types of work that are exempt from being able to use subcontractors or contractors in general. So this for I was just looking up some costs for workers' compensation insurance, and it can be. I mean, it is substantial for high risk jobs. It could be up to 30% of the employee's wage.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
So for high risk labor jobs, for $100 in payroll, we're talking about $33.50 per $100 in payroll that they have.
So what would be high risk? I guess
police officers, firefighters, electrical, roofing is for sure. Those are some of the more high risk ones.
And so they're setting it up. So 2023, we added those 4, but in 2026, it's all contractors that are all licensed contractors. I think I need to be very clear with that.
Correct,
licensed contractors. Interesting. So will this be good for applicant attorneys?
Probably. I think that applicant attorneys are hesitant to take UEF cases where coverage is questionable, because it's more work. It's maybe a little bit more hoops to jump through. So I think there's some hesitancy to take cases where the injured worker, whether the employer is questionable whether they have insurance or not. I think that's a factor for sure. So I think that applicant attorneys may see an uptick, with injured workers.
Yeah, I know we definitely understand that a special notice of lawsuit is much more difficult than just getting your standard medical records.
For sure.
They these people that don't have insurance, they're putting down addresses where we show up and it may be nothing.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a lot of legwork to find these employers.
I don't know what the percentage of uninsured employer cases there are, but I just think from a general perspective that uninsured employer cases are probably more difficult and less attractive for sure to an applicant attorney.
It would have been interesting to maybe pull some numbers on how much UEF is paying out annually in comparison to the rest of workers' comp.
And it's not just payout, right? It's just the process of UEF
for
is
sure.
just,
starting from the very beginning of even finding the employer is difficult.
Right.
That's where we come in.
Yeah, and I'm curious too what our audience thinks, what their conclusions are from how this might affect them. Curious how it affects them now, the UEF cases, the uninsured cases. It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear some comments from the audience.
And how it affects their business too. I think there's, we understand law firms, they don't do a whole lot of contracting. And again, this is focused on specific contractors, concrete, HVAC, asbestos. This seems like trade work is where this comes in a lot, roofing. But how could this affect their firm from an employer as an employer perspective?
Do you think that there's a potential for workarounds, like the small business owners, that have 1 or 2 employees right now? You think they're going to try to find ways to get around these types of things?
Well, I think that comes back to I don't think it's going to be easy. So the consumers are over time going to have to be more educated and weigh those risks. If you're, like you were talking about, working with a handyman, and they have one laborer with them, and something happens, are you gonna, does that affect your buying choices? Is the question.
Sure. Yeah. What's the impact to the consumer? Do they have any type of risk too?
Yeah.
Seems like it'd be pretty minimal. I mean, if you're going out and you're getting work done, probably best to hire someone that does have work comp insurance, I'd say.
Yeah.
You want to protect your home or whatever you're working on.
Yeah. And just a couple other statistics on the cost of workers' compensation right now. California has the 4th highest in the U.S. Your average rate is $1 in California. The average premium in 2021 is $1.56 per $100 of payroll. And in
well, that's definitely a lot lower than the 40 cents that you were mentioning earlier for those high risk positions. So there's a huge underwater welding. That was something that I was interested in when I was in my youth.
The most dangerous job in the world, of course you were. So interesting. But yeah, let's hear from our audience.
Follow,
subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to hearing from you guys. And that'll wrap it up. Got any final comments?
No, not so much. Thanks, Dan.
All right, Frank. See you next time.
How we going?